Hey there, welcome to Jones of the Travel. I'm Aaron. Today we're here with our 2017 DRV Fullhouse toy hauler, and today starts the beginning of our solar install series. Now we're sitting here in South Dakota and it's a beautiful day, kind of windy, so I've set up all the components inside in the toy hauler so we can kind of run through them, show you what the system's going to look like, and then kind of go from there. But further on down in the series, we'll be doing the install, we'll be programming our new inverters and setting everything up, and then the final episode will be a recap of how well the system works and any kind of issues or anything like that. Just an overall review of the system. So let's go inside to the toy hauler and let's take a look at our components we've chosen. Okay, here we are in the toy hauler, and one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning is that we're doing a 24 volt system, and then we'll be converting that down to 12 volts to run the coach. A couple advantages to the 24 volt system: you can run smaller wire, it's a little bit cheaper because your voltage is higher and your amp draw is lower. The other reason that I decided to do 24 volt system is because I can get more bang for my buck out of my battery bank. And we have a residential fridge in this rig, and so I want to make sure that I have plenty of storage to run that refrigerator when we're traveling and when we're boondocking. I wanted to go over our system here, kind of an overview real quick. I did this drawing just to kind of show you guys what our overall system looks like. So we're starting out with a 2400 watt solar array on the roof. I'm going to wire 6 200 watt panels in series, then another 6 200 watt panels in series on the other side of the roof. They're going to combine those in a junction box in parallel, giving us the full 2400 watts, 146 volts, and about 19 amps. Because I'm doing 24 volt system and I'm wiring these in series, this 19 amps is safe to pass down the 10 gauge pre-wire that DRV installed at the factory for our solar. That helps me a lot because I don't have to pull heavier wire. I don't have to create any more unnecessary holes in the roof. All right, then they're going to come off the roof. They're going to hit this 30 amp DC breaker before they hit the Victron solar controller, and then out of the solar controller into a 100 amp breaker, and then fed into our Victron links, which is essentially a bus bar for our DC side. The links contains the fuses, which is cool. Prevents us from having to install a separate catastrophic fuse. Out of the links, we're going to hit the shunt before we hit our battery pack, and that will measure current in and out of the shunt, allowing our battery monitor to be more accurate. We're going to use 4-aught cable, battery cable, just to make sure it's heavy so it can handle all the amperage. And then we're going to have a battery cutoff switch on the batteries as well. Coming out of the links, we're going to have a battery cutoff for each inverter, as you can see here. And then we're going to run 4-aught cable again to two 24 volt, 3000 watt Victron inverters. One of these inverters is going to go and power one side of our 50 amp main coach panel, and the other inverter will power the other side of our 50 amp main coach panel. While hooked up to shore power, these will be programmed to run in split phase, 180 degrees out. And then while we're boondocking, we'll be able to switch the programming and run them in parallel so they can assist each other. And I've still got to test all that out while I'm boondocking. But I've also installed soft starts on all 3 of the air conditioners so that we can run air conditioners while we're boondocking if we need to. Again, that's going to be quite taxing on our battery pack, but we should be able to get 3 or 4 hours out of an air conditioner, enough to cool us off if it comes down to that. And, we try to chase 70 degrees, so we shouldn't need the air conditioners, but we have them just in case. Coming into the coach, currently we have shore and generator. It comes into the transfer switch, and I'm gonna take the wire, a 6.3 with ground, over to another 50 amp 2-pole sub panel. It's kind of my main switch so that I can isolate my inverters, and then out of that into the inverter with AC power. And then of course the inverters will pass that through to the coach if we're plugged into shore or the generator's running. If we're boondocking, it will invert and pass power to the main panel. So this coach will be 100% inverted. We'll have to be careful that the air conditioners don't mistakenly come on or something like that, so we don't tax our batteries too much. But with a little bit of management, that should be pretty easy to do. At some point, I haven't installed this yet, but I will be installing a generator auto start. I've got a color control panel back ordered from Victron. The COVID-19 kind of threw a monkey wrench in the works, and the control panel's back ordered for a couple months. So hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll get that in, and I'll be able to install the control panel and install the auto gen start, and I'll do a video when I get to that point. Another something I want to mention is our DC to DC converter. Since this is a 24-volt system, the battery's actually putting out about 27 volts. We need to convert that down to 12 volts for the 12-volt bus in the coach. I've got that running into a Victron DC to DC converter. The output's about 13.2, which makes all of our DC lighting really happy, no flickering. And I'm running that through an 80 amp DC breaker just to be safe, so the coach can be isolated from the rest of the system. I know that was kind of a quick overview about the 30,000 foot level, but if you guys have any specific comments or questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to answer those to the best of my ability. I have learned quite a bit about this 24-volt system or setup from some fellow RVers that have done this before. I've installed, a handful or more solar systems, but they've always been 12 volts. So this is my first 24-volt install, and I feel really good about it. It is up and running at this point, and I know we haven't got to that in the video series yet, but it seems to be performing really well. So, time will tell how happy we are with it. But again, leave comments below, specific questions, and I'll get to those as I can. Let's start over here. We've got our main circuit cutoff that we're going to use to be able to isolate the system. Now, this is a 100 amp coach. Well, it's a 50 amp coach, but it has two 50 amp legs in the breaker. Technically, it's a 100 amp coach. So we're going to run two inverters so that we can power up both sides of the coach, and it'll be 100% inverted when we're boondocking. We've got some mini breakers for DC, so these will be coming off the roof from our solar panels and then going to our solar controller. And then we have one to isolate the system between the DC to DC converter and the 12-volt bus in the coach. We've got a couple battery cutoff switches. We're going to use these two to actually isolate our inverters, so we'll be able to shut those down if we need to. Up on the roof, we already have the panels installed. I went ahead and did that out in quartzite just to store them, I guess, for lack of a better reason. We'll go up on the roof in another episode and we'll look at those and we'll connect them all together. They're not connected right now, they're just installed. But up there on the roof, we're going to use this AM Solar combiner box. And what I really like about this combiner box is it comes with everything you need to install or to connect your solar panels. I've installed this on a couple customer builds, and I really like how sleek and streamlined it is. Let me show you here. You see it's really thin, and it's got a hole in it already. I usually make these from scratch with junction box from big box store. Making them yourself is quite a bit cheaper, but I kind of like this compact design, so I decided to go ahead and get one for my rig and put it in my build. Got a couple bus bars here just in case I need them. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to use those, but I've got them on hand. And then we're going to use the Victron Energy Links distributor, and basically this is just a fancy bus bar. But the cool thing about it is we have these blade fuses. We have 400 amp blade fuses and we have 125 amp, and those go here between your lead and your bus, and we'll hook our battery pack here, and then we'll have a fuse here off each leg of our junction box. So that's pretty cool. We have our USB adapter so that we can hook our color control up to the internet. We can monitor all this over Wi-Fi. We have our Victron solar controller. We have the 250-100 because we're running 12 200 watt solar panels, so 2400 watts of solar. This bad boy is going to take care of all that for us. It's MPPT, so it's going to handle all the shading and all that sort of thing. We are tilting our panels, so that's going to help as well. This is our Victron Orion DC to DC converter. This is going to take 18 to 32 volts. It's going to convert it to 10 to 15. Now, another advantage of doing a 24 volt system is that some of our LED lights in these new coaches and some of those other things really aren't happy below about 13 volts. It's going to make our lights happy. It's going to make our control boards and our air conditioners and our water heater and all that kind of stuff happy. So that's another advantage to doing 24 volt and then converting it down to 12 volts. Then we have the stars of the show. We have two multi-plus 24 volt 3000 watt Victron inverters. One's going to feed one side of our coach and the other one's going to feed the other side of our coach, and we'll talk more in depth about how that works when we install these and when we hook everything up. Now this is going to again invert when we're boondocking and pull power off of our battery pack and invert it to 110 volts. So we'll truly be living like we're plugged in when we're boondocking. Here we have, I'm sorry for the sun, let me see if I can block it a little bit. We just have a miscellaneous Victron communication cables that connect all the stuff together. This is the wire we're going to use on the roof to connect the panels. This is an 8-gauge wire. Normally you would use a 10-gauge, and I could easily get away with 10 with the way we're going to wire these in series, but I got an 8-gauge when I ordered it, so it'll work. You could always go a size bigger. You should never go a size smaller. This is a 4-aught wire that we're going to use for our battery cable. Another star of the show. You know how I love my Relion batteries. I've got 4 of these 300 amp hour 12 volt batteries. We're going to wire 2 of them together and create a 24 volt battery. There's going to be 2 more here that we're going to wire together and create a 24 volt battery, so we'll have a 24 volt system. I actually commissioned this battery rack from a local welder here in Rapid City, South Dakota, TNT Welding, and I'll put their information down in the description below. If you're in South Dakota and you need welding done, those guys are great. They gave me a very good price, and they literally built this thing while I waited. I kind of collaborated with them a little bit, got my measurements right, and I shared a drawing with them, but it was awesome to go over to their shop and kind of sit with them, and they loved having me there. I mean, we had a great time, and it turned out great. So that's going to house our batteries. We'll show you later on where that's going to go and how they're going to be kind of protected. That's kind of the bulk of the system that we're doing. It's a little more than just solar, but a couple other things that we're going to do. This coach has 3 air conditioners. 2 of them are heat pumps, which is kind of irrelevant, but there's 3 air conditioners. We're going to put a micro air easy start on every single one of them, and that way when we're boondocking, if it gets a little warm and we need to, we can kick an AC on and kind of cool the coach off. Now we're going to have 600 amp hours of 24 volt, which is about equivalent to 1200 amp hours of 12 volt. So we should have plenty of battery to run an AC for a little bit of time, you know, a couple of hours possibly, to be able to cool the coach down. And then in addition to that, this coach came with a 5500 watt Onan generator built in. So we're going to install this Kesson generator start module, and this is going to allow us to control our generator using the Victron color display, and we'll be able to set parameters so that it self-starts once a month and runs for 15 minutes for general maintenance. We can set it to start the generator on low voltage on the batteries and those sorts of things. So really cool little device. I think they're like 200 bucks, maybe less than that, so pretty cheap. All right, well, there you have it. There's the system that we're going to put in this big coach. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to bring you guys along through the build and show you all the aspects. I want this to be useful, and I want some good feedback. So if you guys have questions or comments, please put them in the description below. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm always open to comments and questions and suggestions. So here we go. Let's get solar and inverters installed on this coach, and we can live like we're plugged in. Thanks for checking out the video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and until next time, safe travels. Bye.